Hats. Some love them, some hate them. Some serve a purpose, some are nothing more than the equivalent of wearing a trash bag over your head. Welcome to the Bandit Camp. I'm your boy, the DuffleBagBandit. Today we're gonna look into a few choice samples from the world of headwear and how they look in the eyes of a low-life scoundrel like myself. Let's jump straight into the tier list. First on the list, we have the Snapback and the Fitted. Treasured from the hood to the burbs, revered by Greek scholars and gangbangers alike. The Snapback and the Fitted transcend age, gender, religion, and race, and are unanimously considered as a symbol of hate. The hats of hate. Think about it. They're only used to show one's affiliation and are inherently tribalist. A fashionable choice on the us versus them mentality. Let's go over examples of a few notorious guilds that have embraced these two hats as part of their everyday attire. The Crips and the Bloods. Wearing one of these hats with the wrong color or logo might get your ass popped in a dark alley somewhere in Bompton. The Yankees versus the Red Sox. Wearing a rival team's hat in the wrong city or part of town is sure to encourage certain people to incentivize you to go get your yearly checkup with your local orthopedic surgeon. Marvel versus DC. Depending on how many skill points each neckbeard has put into their various different stats like strength, dexterity, charisma, intelligence, you might see various offensive tactics being used, varying from getting semen delivered to your opponent's mailbox to one of the involved parties becoming the victim of a drive-by in which they get assaulted by high-velocity insulin injectors. When it comes to looks, the Snapback and the Fitted, they look alright. And when it comes to their utility, they're good at shooting your face from the sun, which is great, and they're also a brilliant tool for spreading the propaganda of your choice. All in all, I will send these two hats straight to A tier. Second on the list, we have the Beanie. Some say the Beanie is the basic bitch of all hats. It embodies the very essence of what a hat should be and do as seen through the eyes of the pragmatic person. But, as with anything pure, you will easily find extremist groups which try to corrupt it with their various interpretations. Now let's talk a little bit about the target demographic of the beanie. Generally speaking, modern day philosophers have been able to identify three distinct schools of thought when it comes to ways of wearing a beanie. The first one being over the ears, both cuffed and uncuffed. The second one is the shallow cuff. And in number 3, we have the limpy. Let's have a quick look at each one of these. First, let's talk about the over the ears. This is the most pragmatic way of wearing a beanie. Bland, uninspired, and utilitarian. It is also considered the most common way, and so its followers are too numerous to list. Just know that they're the kind of people who most likely believe that cabbage is spicy and would love to talk to you about the excitement they get from doing their taxes. When it comes to looks, this way of wearing a beanie just looks like you have a condom on your head. Now let's move on to the second method of wearing a beanie, and that is the shallow cuff. The shallow cuff is a more niche interpretation of the correct way to wear a beanie. And as such, this alternative style has been adopted by a few very distinct sects, among which are seamen, skaters, wannabe fashionistas, and most notably of all, hipsters. So if you're interested in getting belittled because you cannot name and chronologically sort every single song and album of the band that is on your t-shirt, or you're interested in hearing a 2-hour abridged version of the story of every tattoo that the wearer has on their body, make sure you chat up the next person you see wearing a shallow cuff beanie. Again, when it comes to looks, the shallow cuff beanie just looks like a condom that is about to get rolled down your head. And now moving on, at number 3, we have the limpy. A truly abominable alteration to the original way of wearing a beanie. The limpy is loved by few and hated by many. Aside from making your head look like a prepubescent xenomorph or Roger the alien from Family Guy, it is also widely considered a symbol of moral degradation and general apathy. The limpy today can be seen mainly on temporally confused individuals who for one reason or another believe that it's still the early 2000s. Or on members of certain guilds who have heavily embraced the notion of apathy as part of their image and life philosophy. When it comes to looks, in my opinion, the limpy looks the worst out of all three. It just kind of looks like a used condom on your head. Now, if we're going to talk about utility, the beanie will keep your head warm, and if need be, it can be turned into a deadly weapon by throwing in a pair of hard, blunt objects and swinging it at your enemies, prison style. All that being said, I will give the beanie a nice spot in B tier. Next up on the list, we have the bucket hat. A very interesting take on the hat formula. The bucket hat has been embraced all around the world by a variety of people, including but not limited to fishermen, elderly hikers, modern-day botanists and alchemists, and the dietarily challenged. Many wonder what people see in the bucket-shaped piece of clothing. Can it be used as armor? Will it give the wearer superhuman abilities? Will it prevent the government from reading my thoughts as I go about my daily business? Even though scientists are yet to answer any of these questions, we can be certain of one thing. It will make you look like you're wearing a bucket on your head, and it can be used as a collection vessel in a pinch. Personally, I like the bucket hat. I'm not gonna lie. I'm gonna give it the Bandit seal of approval, and I'm gonna send that bad boy to A tier. Man, next on the list we have the Fedora. Many prolific public speakers have made their opinions heard on the topic of this hat. This meme has already been ran into the dirt, but what can I say? I'm not above stabbing someone in the chest repeatedly while they're down on the ground. So, the Fedora started off its life as a fashionable piece of headwear embraced by people from various backgrounds and occupations. Today, the Fedora is mostly worn by attention seekers, the mentally infirm, and men who in their words have dedicated their life to a greater purpose and require a permanent contraceptive aura to keep them safe from the daily onslaught of big-breasted succubi that try to distract them from their holy mission. When it comes to looks, after all that's been said, it looks fine. But I'm sending it all the way to the F tier, baby. Quickly moving on to the next one in the list, we have the top hat. A bit more of an archaic entry in the list. The top hat is a niche favorite for a few smaller guilds, including degenerate steampunk cosplayers, 19th century time-traveling bankers, and people with questionable decision-making skills. Sporting a top hat used to be an excellent way to assert your financial dominance over others. But today, if you get caught wearing it, you're signaling to everyone that you're more than willing to be financially, emotionally, and in some cases physically dominated for the rest of your life. When it comes to looks, the top hat looks a bit ridiculous, but I'm still gonna give it a nice respectable spot at C tier. Guys, next up on the list, we have the Beret. A symbol of revolution and tradition at the same time. Used by official and not so official armed forces around the world. Worn by the proletariat, the French, fashion models, and people who like the smell of their own flatulence. Honestly, I don't have much to say about it. It doesn't really seem to serve much of a purpose, and shit looks stupid. It's like you're wearing a deflated souffle on your head. Maybe that's why the French like it. I'm sorry, but I'll have to smack this into D tier. Now, this is where the list gets a little bit interesting. In my opinion, we're getting to the spicy stuff. Next up on the list, we have the K6-3 Titanium Ballistic Helmet. Even though this is technically a helmet and not a hat, I still believe that its vast popularity and wide use, especially among the demographic of the former Soviet bloc, makes this a worthy contender for the tier list. And what a candidate it is. Aside from the obvious fashion benefits that this iconic helmet will bring to your everyday outfits, the K6-3 will prove to be an invaluable asset in your daily life as its uses are innumerable. Do you need to quickly prevent a terrorist ploy? The K6-3 is by your side. You've been drafted into a war? The K6-3 will most likely save your life more than a few times. You've stumbled across the nest of Japanese murder hornets on your way to school? The K6-3 will prove more than capable in keeping that pesky nuisance away from your pretty face. You need to go to the local grocery store to curb your late night sugar cravings? But you remember you live in East Side Chicago? Your chances of survival are slim either way, but bringing the K6-3 with you is better than nothing. I know, some of you might say that I'm just acting as a corporate shill for the NII Stally Corporation that make this helmet, but I promise you, my enthusiasm is purely my own as I have personally seen the benefits that this helmet has brought to my life. But here in the Bandit camp, we're more than happy to advertise military grade equipment. So NII Stally, throw your boy a bone or two and we might figure something out. When it comes to looks, I mean, what can I say, man? That shit looks absolutely sick. Without further ado, as you already might have guessed, I will be sending this helm up to S tier. If you had a good time today with me at the Bandit camp, please make sure to subscribe, leave a like, leave a comment, let me know what you think about my tier list. Do you agree? Do you disagree with what I have said? As for me, I gotta go back to my ambush spot. We got a convoy coming through later today, and those merchants won't get liberated from their materialistic burdens by themselves. So I'm out, guys.